Hi, Lucy here, holistic high flow coach and mentor. Today I'm going to be covering grit. So just to give an overview, there is perseverance grit. There's the grit to control your thoughts, the grit to be your best when you're actually at your worst, the grit to work on your weaknesses, the grit to master fear, and the grit of recovery and having some active recovery. So on this video, we're going to cover the grit to master your fear. And this is such a huge subject for so many people because fear is something that is ingrained in us. It's in the oldest part of our brain, the amygdala, and we look for fear. So we're 10 times more likely to be negative than positive. We are always scanning our environment to find out if there's anything that's dangerous in our environment. And so the fear switch is almost always switched on. So it can be really tricky to overcome fear because we make up stories in our head. We imagine things are going to happen that will probably never happen. And it stops us moving forward. It stops us from being our best. And it might be stopping you from reaching the peak performance level that you want to reach and getting to that next level. And so leaning into the grit of fear is going to be a real game changer. And the way to start to do this is to do it with small steps. So look out for things every single day that you are afraid to do, that you're thinking, oh, I really don't want to do that. It feels uncomfortable. I might get a negative response. And that's the time to lean into it straight away without really thinking what to do. If it's, let's say it's a phone call and you're going to phone somebody. And so you immediately dial that number, you pick up the phone and breathe. And the words will come out, the words will flow. Because you've done that, it's going to be fine. And do it with the things that don't seem so scary to start with, and then lift that level of fear. If you can be looking at the things that you're afraid of every single day and leaning into one thing every day, then that level of, I can do this. I've got the grit to do this. I can lean into bigger fears, my fear of flying, my fear of whitewater rafting, my fear of speaking to that person, having that conversation, going to that club, asking this question to my boss. Those things will become easier because you've dealt with the smaller fears every single day. And sometimes when I'm doing this, I forget that that on that day, I need to be looking out for the fear that I can then lean into. But when I do it, I do the leaning in. And when I do that leaning in and I send that message, or I pick up the phone, or I take that action, it's never as bad as I think it's going to be. It's never as bad as the story I've made up in my head. And actually, once it's done, it feels so much better. It's a relief. It's a release from going round and round and over and making up this story or stories, because the longer we leave that fear, the bigger it seems to get, the more out of proportion it seems to get. And so taking hold of that, taking back our power, taking back, imagine it's a steering wheel that you've got, holding on to that steering wheel and driving into that fear as far as you can go. And then on the other side, there's sunshine, there's light, there's a much easier place. It might have been a really tricky conversation, but you had that conversation. It might have been a really tough thing to do to get onto that aeroplane or to go in that raft or whatever it was, but you did it. You leant into that fear, and maybe take somebody with you. It depends on what the situation is. or tell somebody that you're going to do it. Maybe that's the thing that's going to help you to do that fearful thing that you've made up stories about in your head. Do the easier things first, build it up, build it out, and you will notice a huge difference in the way that you feel about yourself and the way actually that you then present yourself to the world and the way that you think about yourself. So it's a really fantastic grit to get to grips with. And we're going to go into the other ones on other videos. I hope this has helped and given you a taster of leaning into the grit of fear. Do click on one of the other videos showing up on screen now. May well be about grit or some other area of coaching that I use with my coachees to help them to get into flow, to reach their next level of success. So have an awesome day, and I'll see you on the next one.